All right, we're live in both places now.
Okay, I'll begin then. Good evening. This is the January 10th, 2024 Board of Education Special Meeting, Public Forum number 1. It is 6:02 p.m. and our first agenda item is verification of quorum, and we have a quorum. So I'll call the meeting to order. And our second agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's all join in for that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item number 3 is public comment on the fiscal year 25 operating and capital budgets. And Dan and Jody will take it from here.
Sure. So for anybody who would like to make a public comment during this meeting, and if you're in the Zoom session, if you look at the bottom of your Zoom client, there should be a little icon that says raise hand. If you go ahead and click on raise hand, Jody will prompt you to promote you to a panelist, and you'll get a little prompt. You just have to click OK, and where you'll be able to speak your name and your address and move forward with your public comment. So again, at the bottom of your Zoom client, there's a little button that says raise hand. So Peter, if we just want to give it a few minutes for people to join up and see if anybody has any comment.
If there's anybody interested in speaking, okay, I have somebody right now. Mary, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. Once you're promoted to a panelist, please make sure you turn your camera on, state your full name, and state your street address, please. Give Mary just a moment. Okay, Mary, you're now a panelist. You can turn your screen on and you can start speaking.
Okay. Okay, the video.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Good evening. I just had 2 quick questions, and one of my questions might be answered.
Mary, if you don't mind, can you please just state your street for me?
Oh, sure. Sorry. Mary Welsh Lehman, 8 River Road.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So one of my questions might be answered on the audio of the presentation from last week, but I didn't get a link to that until just a few minutes ago. So please bear with me. I'm sorry if it's something that's stated there. When I was looking through the presentation, I was just curious in the page with the overall request for 2024 through 2025. It says budget allocation by cost center, and one of the cost centers was district-wide services. And I was just curious what's included in that particular part of the pie chart. Could you hear me?
Yes. We'll address that during the workshop. So that's a good question, but I think tonight's forum is comment, and then we note the question, and then we'll answer it tomorrow during public workshop.
Okay.
We don't have a discussion amongst ourselves.
Okay, and will that be
so we note it as a question. That's online, right? And it's posted. So
right.
We'll address that and make sure you get an answer.
Is it in the morning?
If I may.
Yeah, yes.
If I may, Mary, last year what happened was we actually didn't have many people comment, but what we're doing is we're taking down all of the questions, and then we will make sure that they are, that people are directed to where their responses are, for example. Okay. So we will make note, break it down and everything, and then also put these in writing so people can reference it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah. So we'll work on it. I don't want to misspeak right now, but we make a note of every question, and that's kind of how I'll proceed. Okay.
Yeah. And
so
I have 2 more comments then, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
So the other comment I had was regarding the rate of increase um, from year to year, the 3.5%. And I did notice that a lot of it, is as typically is staffing, benefits, things like that, that are not within the control, for cost cutting or anything like that. But my question arises because if I remember correctly, fiscal year, was it 22? Not this year, but the current year before, there was some over budgeting, and in fact, enough, so much so that certain reading materials were actually purchased that were supposed to be purchased under this fiscal year's budget. The current fiscal year were actually purchased with the year before, so the prior year's budget, because there was so much savings. I guess there was so much over budgeting. I think it was over $1 million. And my question was, given that there was the over budgeting in that fiscal year, which with expenses from this current fiscal year were being able to be moved to that fiscal year, there's going to be over budgeting for this fiscal year. And since that's been happening, which is great, it's a credit to everybody there. I was curious about whether instead of just starting from what was budgeted this fiscal year, you would be able to kind of build in what you saw as the over budgeting in those prior years in order to decrease the rate of increase this year. So I apologize if that's convoluted. I hope somebody was able to follow that. And then my last comment is about the writing lab. And I saw in the budget that I think you're adding more faculty time to that. And I just want to say I really appreciate that. I think that's one of the best things that Weston Schools offers. And anyway, thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate all your hard work.
If I may, Mary, and it specifically relates to your question about the surplus. At our first Board of Ed workshop, for everyone listening, the board has asked us many questions. We answered the questions. We captured the answers to those questions in a written document, and then the board members individually emailed us additional questions.
Okay.
And our administrative team has spent the good part of each day since that meeting writing answers, putting in detailed information to those questions. And as we did last year, we have it's called Weston, I don't know, what is it called, Jody? Weston Public Schools Board of Ed Budget Questions. And
Okay.
it has a table of contents and it has all the questions. The question you're actually talking about, Mary, has been answered in that document. That document will be posted. We finished all the questions. We want to get it done before tomorrow's meetings. We finished all the answers. We're going to be emailing that document for informational purposes to the board tonight. Hopefully they can skim through it and see our responses. And then it's also a piece tomorrow with the workshop if people need more clarification. It will be posted online tomorrow morning. Okay.
All
So
right. Thanks, Lisa.
so you know, and if anyone else comes up with a further question that perhaps is answered, I will tell them to direct them to that document, and/or we'll make a note of a question that's perhaps is different. Am I explaining myself?
Yeah. Thanks for making it so easy. I appreciate it.
No worries.
Have a good night. How do I sign off now that
I'm going to move you back to an attendee. Just give me one moment.
All right. Thanks, Jody.
You're very welcome.
For your comments.
Okay. If there's anybody else that would like to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand and I will promote you to a panelist. Lisa, I'm not sure if you had your hand up and then you took it down. So if you want to speak, just make sure to raise your hand. It doesn't look like anybody who is in the attendee room wishes to make a comment. Nobody's raising their hands.
Let's give it one more minute in case
Mhm.
someone's late to the broadcast.
Mhm. No, no change on my end.
Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item 4, which is the next scheduled meeting. And that's tomorrow, January 11th, 2024 at 9 a.m. It's called the Board of Education Special Meeting Budget Workshop. And this meeting will be remote. And as Jody reminded everyone, the links will be available for the panelists and the public. And as the superintendent indicated, Q&A will be available for review by the public in the morning. Anything to add?
I like
Yes.
to just give it can we just give it 1 or 2 more minutes?
Yeah.
Because I saw a few
I-
hands raised and then lower, and I just want to
Yeah.
make sure it's not a technical issue for anybody
Okay,
maybe like who are
I was
thinking.
just gonna say the same thing. One or two
Yeah.
keep going up and down, but
So if you want to raise your hand, you don't double click on the hand raise icon. You just single click on it. I just wanted to get that out of the way. And for anybody new who has joined the webinar, if you would like to make a comment on the bottom of your Zoom client, there's a little icon that says raise hand. Single click on that icon that says raise hand. We will be notified that you've raised your hand. So, sorry to keep everyone a little bit longer. I just want to make sure nobody from the public was having technical difficulties trying to make a public comment.
well, that's fine, right? The panelists don't have the benefit of seeing the raised hands.
I
Only
do
the,
see one
host.
individual. Alex, I believe you have your hand raised. I'm going to promote you to a panelist. Once I do, and you come into the meeting, I'm going to ask you to turn your video on and to state your name and your street address. Okay, Alex, you're now a panelist. You can turn your video on and state your name and your street address. You will have 5 minutes to speak. Just give him a moment. He's trying to get his microphone to work. I think he's having a little technical difficulty.
Maybe Alex, if you type your name into can we see the comment? If he types it in and types his question, that might be another workaround.
I was going to say also, Alex, I know that you're connected via 2 devices and the one you're currently as a panelist in isn't working. We can try to promote you with the other account because I see you're logged in here twice. If your other device would work better, we could try to promote you that way. And at the very least, if you'd want to type your comment in the chat, we will read it off to the public if you're having technical difficulties. So Jody, do you want to promote the other account just to see if that works?
I'm actually trying to promote
Oh,
him for some.
I
Oh, wait,
see him.
he's rejoining. Okay, I have them both there. So,
Okay.
Alex, let's see which one you can speak on.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I was getting very frustrated. I don't know who it was, but who recommended you guys wait a few more minutes. I do appreciate that because I was having technical difficulties. So I appreciate that.
That's okay. You can just state your name for me, your full street address, and then you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Sure. So I'm Alex Staley and I live at 42 Lord's Highway.
Mhm.
So I guess I have just a general question because I appreciate all the thought and time you guys have put into the budget. It definitely shows, and the detail that's provided online is very helpful. So I do appreciate that. I have, not knowing exactly the format of this, I had a bunch of questions, and I'm just wondering, is it better for me just to email them ahead of your guys' workshop tomorrow? Because it probably doesn't do that much use for me just to walk through the questions, which are pretty detailed. And then I have like a couple comments, but I want to use everybody's time efficiently, and I'm happy just to email the questions and have them on the record that way too.
I don't put questions into the record just so that you know that, but I will leave that the other portion of emailing it to the board up to them.
Alex, it would be helpful to me as superintendent if you could, you can certainly email, me the questions, but I would like to hear them. Because
yeah, I can
as
go
you,
through them
as
quickly.
you say them, it's kind of helpful. And given that there are not many people at this point, take your time, go ahead.
Yep, no, I can certainly do that. So I guess I'll reiterate the last woman's comment about the over budgeting. So I went back and looked at the data provided on the last, 10 to 12 years of budgeting and versus actuals that you guys provided. And it does look like over the past 4 years, like there has been a general over budgeting of about $1 million per year. And so in theory, there should be some amount of reserve somewhere in the system. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but and so would just like to comment to understand how this year's budgeting maybe as compared to last year's or the last 4 years, and how that over budgeting or potential reserve could play into keeping the overall budget down in light of like the current environment where everybody's experiencing higher costs, higher inflation, et cetera, from a property tax perspective. So I would like to reiterate that. As far as like my specific questions, I mean, I went through it in super detail. I mean, a couple things that stand out, and the last woman's right, like salaries is a big piece of the budget, but it does feel like there's several items that are significantly higher than last year that aren't totally clear why. One of them is around equipment and technology. It seems like there's a lot of money being spent on upgrading the access points, the internet, the security associated with that. And so question is simply, when the last time that's been updated, and, are you guys actually seeing an issue from a bandwidth perspective that's mentioned in the write-up, that it's absolutely required, or if it's kind of a nice to have because, it's a nice to have. So that's kind of one specific thing. I mean, that amount was several hundred thousands of dollars, which is, close to 1% of the overall budget. So, you take that, and then the next item, which seems like there's a large increase associated with supplies and materials that are curriculum related. And it's unclear exactly what that means or what is being purchased in regards to the curriculum. It seems like maybe it's the implementation of the new reading program, the implementation of a new math program, but the specifics on what exactly is driving that $280,000 type increase from the previous year is another question of mine. And then to dovetail that, in theory, if those are really implementation costs, then next year they should not be in the budget, or future years, I would think, unless like there's a continuous upgrade of reading and math on a regular basis. So something to note for future years. The other thing I was thinking too is I work in the energy sector, and last year there has been a big increase in energy costs broadly speaking, and it continues this year. And I'm wondering like what has been explored and where. I don't know exactly how it sits in the town, if this is a Board of Finance thing, but other ways to reduce energy costs, whether it be locking in rates longer term, looking at on-site solar or other mechanisms with state incentives to reduce energy costs. But there might be ways to reduce energy costs and thus reduce the budget overall related to that. The other thing, couple other things that I had questions on was just like the timing of capital budget. So the capital budget, which seems to be pretty significant, has a lot of TBDs. And it also feels like there's a lot of items that, I don't know, it'd be good to understand, the specific need and how you prioritize those, whether it be the security obviously makes total sense. I'd just rather spend money on security than paving the roads for our children as a general matter. But how you think about the timing of when the parking lot last was paved. It also seems like the capital budget includes a lot of costs year to year related to HVAC upgrades. And having working in the energy sector, there might be ways to more efficiently execute on that, whether it be a more fulsome replacement program at one time that actually reduces operating costs on an ongoing basis, as opposed to kind of having high repair costs and then having capital budget associated with continuous repairs and maintenance. And so that's something I would recommend and would question if it's been looked into and how it's been looked into. And so I'm just looking at my list here, sorry. Those seem to be like the bigger items. I also don't necessarily understand how enrollments affect the budget, right? I mean, I see the enrollment data, looks like enrollment's down. I just don't, and it'd be good just to clarify, maybe this will be covered tomorrow, but how enrollment affects budgeting. What does it, as enrollment flexes, does the budget flex, or is there some level it does? That's more just like for my own edification. I don't understand that. And then also, like, so you take those two big items that I mentioned, and then you also have tuition out of district tuition dropping several $100,000. Like, all of that combined is over $1 million. And then, like, being more smart on capital planning and whatnot, like, and coupled with the reserve situation, like, there is a world where the budget actually could be flat, it seems like, to last year. And so these are just all items that I noticed in the very detailed budget that seem to be driving the costs. And so, you know, I'm happy to send them the email just so you have them, so you're not like just repeating what I'm writing down what I'm saying. But those are generally the questions and comments that I have on the overall education budget.
If I may just say a few things, without getting into the weeds, Alex, yeah, you're welcome to send your email. I took notes of everything on the list, and things about salaries, the technology, the capital budget. The capital budget is going to be discussed first tomorrow, and we will certainly be capturing that workshop. The director of facilities is going on first tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. And the enrollment data also, there was extensive answers that have been written regarding those things, in the document will be published. So, but the other things we were talking about, energy costs and things like that, we will be sure to discuss at tomorrow's meeting. And I will make sure that you can see, if you email me the questions, where do I find this? Okay.
Yep, no, I appreciate it. This is my first time I'm actually going through like this budget
Sure.
process with you guys. So this is learning for me too. And it's mostly because of the revaluation that's going on in regards
Sure.
to, you know, hyper focus. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me, and you'll be
Mhm.
seeing more of me, I'm sure. So I appreciate
We're
the
happy to clarify, and I think that these documents will help. No worries. And if I may ask, I'm sorry if you said it, do you have a student in the school? And
I do not.
I need your email. You'll send it when you send me the question. Sorry.
I
It's
do
been
not
a-
have children in the school.
I'll
but
have your
we
email for point of contact. Okay,
We have
Thank
good
you.
friends that are part of the school. And
sure.
One
As
of
long
my
as I have your
questions-
email.
one of my
Okay.
questions, actually, last comment, let me just make is,
Mhm.
because we have good friends in the school of which that are part of the special ed program, one of my questions also is making sure that it seemed like there was some money being moved around in the special ed program, but ensuring that the special education program continues to be at its highest level. I know that's something that the district prides itself on, and our friends are very proud of being in the program. And so it's something that I would appreciate knowing whether that's continuing to be the case, and it's not a place where there's being cuts, because it's very important.
We agree. I think you have my email, Lisa Barbiero at westonps.org. If you could
Okay.
kindly send it, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Alex. I'm going to promote you back
Thank
to
you.
an attendee. And I do have one other person that is raising their hands, and L. Brink. I'm going to promote you to a panelist. When I do, would you please turn your video on, state your full name, and state your street address, please?
Okay, sorry. It was on my defaults for work, so I apologize. It's Lindsay
That's
Brink
quite all
and
right.
Davis Hill Road. Thank you for opening up the floor for people to ask questions. I have two questions that are more broad-based as we look at this budget cycle continuing to move forward. I think the first one is, in the last meeting, there were several security concerns raised that have been ongoing. My question related to that is, in the meeting, it was discussed that there will be an independent review, which I think myself and I know other parents like me were very pleased to see that we will have someone sort of look into this from the outside and decide what needs to be done, if anything. My question, though, is in this budget cycle, how quickly is that going to be kicked off so that way we can get the findings of that and impact the budget in time? I'm just thinking time-wise, and I want to make sure that if that was the commitment from the last meeting, we're following through on that and the timeline aligns to whatever the budget cycle is. So it's more a question/comment. The second question/comment I had was, we moved here 6 years ago, 7 years ago now, and we were moving into a blue ribbon school system that was highly ranked within Connecticut. Over the years, it's been steadily declining. And you can look at various reports. I know it's been debated a bit, but various reports across all of them, they're pretty much declining, especially driven in the lower schools. And I guess my question related to that is, what assessment has been done to understand that? And how are we addressing that within the programming and the budgeting for this upcoming school year and beyond? I haven't heard a lot of discussion about this, and I would just like to understand a bit more what is being assessed, how are we assessing it, and what are we actioning to do that within the budget process?
Thank you. We've made note of it, and we can certainly talk about it tomorrow at the workshop, as well as clarify what exactly it means to be a blue ribbon high school. It's not by district, and that process. I think it would be helpful to clarify that for the public.
I 100% agree. I know it's a discussion sort of behind closed doors amongst many parents. And I think the more clarity we can get on what does it mean, should we be concerned, what is driving it or not, and what should we be doing about it, I think would be better for everyone.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. I'm going to move you back to an attendee. Is there anybody else in the attendees that would like to speak? Please raise your hand if so.
Jody, I have a message that Lisa Flanagan is unable to raise her hand, but does want to publicly speak.
Okay, Lisa, just give me a moment. I'm going to promote you to a panelist. Okay, Lisa, I promoted you. When you're ready, please turn your video on, state your full name, and state your street address, please. And you'll have 5 minutes. Okay, Lisa may be having some technical difficulties. Lisa, could you let me know in the chat whether or not you're able to unmute yourself or take yourself off video? I think we just lost Lisa.
I see a second one of her under the attendees, so maybe try.
Yeah, I'm going to try again. Lisa, is that not working for you either? No, she must be having some technical difficulty.
Lisa, perhaps, hopefully the technical difficulty doesn't extend to the chat and you can write some questions.
Lisa, if you look at the bottom of your Zoom, there's a little button that says chat. You can try typing in your question or comment there in the chat. She's listed a few times as both a panelist and as an attendee. I'm assuming she's trying to connect with multiple devices. Okay.
I'm going to try promoting the other one again. Oh, there we go.
Yay!
Yeah, you're working, Lisa.
Thank you for your patience. I
You're
appreciate
very
it.
welcome. You could just state your obviously your full name, your street, and then you can begin speaking.
Sure. I'm Lisa Flanagan, 45 Mary Lane. I know a number of you on the panel tonight, but not all of you. So just by a very brief way of introduction, my husband and I have lived in Weston for almost 30 years, and our two daughters went to school here in Weston and received a great education, went on to great colleges and great graduate schools. And we were very pleased with the education. So we're strong supporters of public education. I've been involved as a volunteer in a number of different organizations, being in leadership roles in the PTOs from Hurlbut up to the high school, with the Western Education Foundation, with WAGE. I volunteered for about 10 years in the College and Career Center. So we are strong supporters of the Western public education system. I have a few questions tonight to piggyback on a couple of the comments from earlier tonight. The proposed budget shows a requested increase as you compare it to the previous budget of about 3.5%. And if you could please address what the increase is when you compare it to the actual budget spent last year, not the proposed budget. That's my first question. Kind of along with that, what is the cost to educate a pupil in the proposed budget? And what is the increase from year to year? My third question has to do with enrollment and the impact on the budget. And that was addressed by another one of the members of the public earlier. The enrollment has gone down every year over the past 16 years. With the exception of the 2013-2014 school year when it went up by 3. So over the past 16 years, enrollment has declined 420 students. And staffing has essentially remained flat, going from about 355 staff members to about 361 in the proposed budget. It seems counterintuitive to have such a drop in enrollment, but not to see any drop, but to see a slight increase in staffing. So I was wondering if you can address what the drivers are for that. I'm wondering if you've done an analysis of enrollment projections using the low projection rather than the medium, and if that tracks better to enrollment. And lastly, the school district and therefore taxpayers have made a significant investment in the CIL program over the past year or two. I believe it's over $1 million. And I'm wondering what objective measures you have to know if that program is working, what the objective measures are, and is it working? So are they dollars